I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to get here, but we're going to be going over a rather full 1 p.m. slate. We're going to take a look at the projections. We're going to build some lineups, go through process, and all that good stuff. We played the tennis King of the Baseline qualifiers today. We just started. We have, the slate literally is just underway, and we'll just kind of see what happens. I just played the top 3 optimals, and we'll just kind of follow along a little later in the day. I mean, I think there's a lot of not that many duplicated lineups, actually. That's actually something interesting that we can do. We could do an analysis of that. As a matter of fact, as I say, since this is my show here, I'll show you how you can do that. Let's share my screen. Again, this is not exactly what you guys are coming for, but we'll do the MLB in a minute. But let me just do this. So this is the King of the Baseline tournament. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to export these. What's up, Mike? And I got to save this as a file for a reason I will tell you in a minute. So I saved it as a file. I called it ownership tracking, but that's really for my own reasons. But what you want to do here is use this site, which I've featured on here a bunch of times. This sports projections site, which what this does, among other things, I had the guy on here once to talk about this. It does like some cool analysis of your entry files, and I'll show you. Like, for example, if it's working, this could be an interesting one because it's a qualifier. But let's just see. Tennis short slate. I don't know which one this is getting. Is this going to be it? Let's just see. Let me just see something. Yeah. Okay. So interestingly, what this does is this identifies like the amount of uniqueness in everybody's lineups. And even though this is 100 entrants, and you only have to come in top 50, there's a lot of uniqueness among the group here. Like, you look at most duplicated lineups, there's only 2 lineups that are duplicated more than 4 times in a cash game setting, which is very, very rare. So that's one thing you could look at using this site. Anyway, we'll get back to that another time. Let's go through the MLB, the early slate, and again, this is the process that seems to be working. Working. This seems to make sense. First thing I'll do is just kind of blast through and just see what I would think I would want to play, and then I'm going to go into projections, and then we're going to go into the Sabres build. So let's see. So Baltimore, Chicago, I would imagine that Cease might show up to be a decent play, maybe. I don't know. Moving on, Angels, Philly. This is a real fast version. I think Detmers probably looks to be okay. Cleveland, Minnesota. No idea. Probably both of them were like okay. So far, no real standouts. Mikolas, probably San Diego might. Well, Mikolas at 5,600 might be a good punt play if there's a big stack that we want to get to, which doesn't look like. Milwaukee, Chicago, Woodruff 10-2. We got to look at the win there. That projects well. That could be a good play. Then we look here, Washington, Toronto. Corbin, probably want to attack him, playing Toronto guys. Cincinnati, San Francisco. Hunter Green is always a good play. He's pretty cheap. He's probably going to be one of the best projected plays, I imagine. As maybe will Logan Webb. Houston, Boston, Valdez is kind of tough to get after, so probably not going to play Boston. Maybe he's a good play, Valdez at 9,800 here. And then Crawford is super cheap, so maybe he looks okay. Oakland, Seattle. Seattle's facing a guy that I've never heard of, so I presume Seattle's going to be the best stack on the slate. That's quick. The real quick view of what of what it would look like. So then what we do is we're going to pull up the sheets and we are going to just take a look at it. And I updated them like maybe an hour ago, so these could be a little stale, but maybe can't be that bad. So we look at the pitching. The first thing that you notice, first thing I notice, is how even everybody is. You know, when you rate them by value score here, they range, you know, you have like 6 guys all within like 4 points of one another, and then only another point down to like Woodruff. So this is a very spread out type of slate. So what I would probably do, if, you know, all else being equal, which it never is, but just take the lowest owned of this group if there's something that's really low owned. Like I wouldn't play Woodruff here. I mean, at 29% ownership, I just can't imagine doing it, considering that these guys are all rated a little bit higher and less owned. So maybe Bassett and Sanchez would be kind of the, you know, the low owned hoodoo pairing to win a GPP. That would be my guess. Let's just see what the stacks would look like. Pull that sheet up here. Okay. So again, to do this, we have to rate them 2 ways. We're going to rate them by the left, it's raw stack score, and all the way to the right by modified. Could do value stack as well, but we're going to start with this. So when it comes to just raw points, you have, it's pretty spread out, but you have decent tiers here. So you have Houston and Philly kind of at the top. And then second group would be Toronto and the aforementioned Seattle. And then you have San Diego kind of in a tier of its own third. So you're fighting between these 5 stacks as being the top overall raw projection. And the thing you'll notice is that Toronto, even though they're rated third, are the highest owned. So, you know, that probably would not be where I would play. You have Philly and Houston pretty much tied for the top spot, but I have Philly as lower owned. So to me, Philly probably would worked out to be the top play if we were just looking at raw points. We're going to deal with other stuff in a second. Then you go down to Seattle, which is, you know, rates a little bit lower than these guys and a little lower owned. So I regard Seattle as probably on par with Philly. Maybe a little worse, but not much. And then you have San Diego, who's rated a little bit lower than Seattle, yet they're going to be significantly lower owned. So San Diego, they get in there, Seattle, and Philly. Those would be my top 3 just on raw points. Now, let's take a look at modified stack. Now, here is where it gets interesting because you have Toronto, and now you'll see why probably they're going to be high owned because they don't only rank high in raw points, but in modified stack as well, which doesn't happen all too often. And then you have Cleveland, who's in there, Boston against Valdez, which I just don't feel like doing, the White Sox, and then Philly before a drop. So you have Philly that's showing up in 2. So Philly and Toronto would be my best overall blend. And given the fact that Philly appears in both and Philly's lower owned, I think that Philly, from a just gazing at the sheets perspective, is probably the preferred stack. The other thing to note is that within this modified stack ranking, you have a very low owned Cleveland. Okay. So putting all of this together from a hand building perspective, I would probably try to build with something like Philly, and then, you know, and then see which pitchers fit. You know what I mean? Because you have your choice of pitchers, I don't want to start with the pitchers and see what stacks fit. I'll start with the hitting. So we're going to build one with Philly. Should we build one with anybody else? I guess we should probably build one with Toronto, given they appear in both of them. We'll just kind of see where that kind of plays out. So let's put all this together and let's build a DraftKings lineup here. And we're going to start with the Philly. And this is against Detmers, which is very this goes against my instinct, right? I thought that Detmers is going to end up being a good play. So I think this is why it's keeping Philadelphia's ownership down, but who cares? So what we'll do is we'll build one with Philly, and then we'll build one with obviously the greatest team in history, Seattle, coming off of a bad game. So they're definitely going to win today. But let's play the Philly guys. And again, the way I do it from a hand building perspective is I'd like to see who appears in both sets. Part of the reason we're playing Philly is because they appear in both sets. So where's kind of the crossover? It's not a lot, actually. You got Trey Turner, and then it's really interesting, and Bryson Stott. So we would start with them. We put in Trey Turner and then Bryson Stott. And then it really depends on what you want, on whether you want to spend, for example, let's build with just, we don't care about price. So we'll go Harper, Schwarber, and Castellanos as the rest of it. So let's do Harper, Schwarber, Castellanos, right? So this would be what would be a 5-man Philly stack would look like. So which of those pitchers that we identified kind of fit in here? Probably, Sanchez probably makes a lot of sense, right? You get a little correlation there. So why don't we start with that? Put Sanchez in there. And then what we could do is we could go and we could play, what's his name? We'll play Bassett after all, right? These are the two we identified anyway, so let's go play Bassett. Surprised that Hunter Green is not, actually he is, but he's a little lower, just a little higher owned. So if you did this, you can get there, but it's definitely, it's a struggle. Now you're paying $2,500 a man, so what you probably end up doing is having to go to those cheapo Clevelands. Let's take a look. See what the cheapo Clevelands are like. I want to just kind of look here. Actually, Jansen, 3,600. We can't afford him. Kirk at 3K. We might be able to afford him. You could play Stubbs at 2,400 and use your Philly as your catcher. And that probably makes a lot of sense, actually. And we just got to take out one of these guys that we don't like the most. But who else can we play catcher-wise? Let's just see what else. So what we need is a third baseman, an outfielder, and a catcher. So you can play Brennan. He's cheap. This Ernie Clement guy from Toronto, he's cheap. So maybe that's what you're supposed to do. And that's why these Toronto guys are so highly owned. So because of this Clement guy. Let's see. Is he actually even playing? We don't even know if he's playing yet. So let's not get all carried away here. But if he is, you play him at third base, and then you could play whichever one of these guys starts even. Actually, not quite. If you play Kirk, I don't think Biggio is going to get in there. Now you just have to play one of those, Cleveland guys like Brennan. So this is possible. Okay. Now if you don't want to play the Philly expensive guys, right? We go back to say starting with Stott and Turner. Then it makes your life a little bit easier. You play guys like Rojas, Stubbs, and Marsh. Then you get to other things, but it seems like the gap between these guys is pretty wide. So I think for Philly, that's probably what I would do with my Philly stack is just pay as little as I can for these pitchers and try to squeeze in these 2,600s or something like that. Let's take a look at the other stack that we talked about, and that was Seattle, and see what these guys look like, otherwise known as the greatest team in history. So let's see what the Seattle group would look like. And I think the Toronto thing we have to wait on because we'd have to see who's actually starting. So Seattle, again, same thing. Let's take a look and see who appears in both of these. Rodriguez, Raleigh, and Teoscar. Start with them. Raleigh, who did they say? Teoscar and Rodriguez, was it? Yeah, and Julio Rodriguez. Now, again, he's been out, right? That's 2 in a row, I think. Oh no, that was yesterday. 6,400 is pretty expensive though. You know, it's what's keeping this down a little bit. Got to play something a little cheaper. So maybe Rojas and Sanzone to finish that off, maybe. And you don't get to play Suarez. So this Rodriguez is making this a little annoying. So I probably end up tossing him if you want to know the truth. That's the thing about Seattle, though. You know, it's I've been saying this is that playing them against righties is not as easy because you don't get to play like these righties with impunity. So I don't think Seattle's going to be kind of the way to go. So for me, hand building probably something like Philly would make the most sense. Oh wait, there's one other. I also want to try this San Diego one, just because it's low owned, and see if I can afford all this. I doubt I can, but let's just see. Well, I don't know. These guys are not that expensive. Let's take a look. Let's just try to jam in whoever we want. So we played Soto, Tatis, Kim. Right, we want to play Kim. 5,200, and then Grisham, either Grisham, Machado, or Bogarts. I mean, if you played them all, and you could probably again go back to those same pitchers. The what was his name? Sanchez and Bassett. I think you could do this. Let's just see. It's still the same thing. It's like 2,600. So, but here, I think the drop off is not as much. I mean, you could play some of these other San Diegos, like you could play Cooper, who's pretty cheap, right? So let's take a look. Cooper is 2,900. So you play him instead of, say, one of these guys, and whatever. It's take one of them out. Now it becomes a lot more manageable, and you could play other guys. So I think that it's a pretty tight pricing slate if you want to know the truth. Before I move on, let me try that cheapo Cleveland stack and see what that gets me if I decide to do that. Because it did rate well as far as value goes, and it seems like I'm having trouble making really good lineups. So we're not going to do a Cleveland stack without Ramirez. So we're going to start with that, even though he didn't do well yesterday. And then we can just basically go with most of the cheapos here. Let's see. What's Jimenez? Jimenez is not that cheap. He's 3,700. Then you have Brennan, who's really cheap. I like him at 2,300. Then there is Kwan at 3,400. I like that. And then you can play either Arias, Straw, something like that. Straw is 2,200. Even Laureano is 3K. Rise is 2,300. So if you do something like this, for example, then you could do some stuff. You could actually play better pitchers. I mean, you could almost play Valdez, but that's not even what you want anyway. I mean, like, let me see who else I kind of liked here. Let's play Hunter Green and say Logan Webb, for example. Can you do that? Let's see, Hunter Green, say Logan Webb and Hunter Green. And this is easy. Like this is you play this. You play the Cleveland stuff, then you can pound. You know, listen, you got to be able to get away with this, but then you can go play really whatever you want. Then you can go back and play some of the more expensive raw points type guys. Like you can go play Guerrero against Corbin. You can go play Springer against Corbin, for example. I mean, you can play whatever you want here. So I guess that's why this Cleveland is pretty appealing on a slate like this. I mean, you have like reasonable guys. Listen, not Hunter Gray. Sonny Gray is not bad, but they're just so cheap that they're going to look pretty decent. All right, so let's go ahead and do a Saber Sim build and see what different types of lineups we can create using Saber Sim and these projections. All right, so forget the tennis for a second. Let's get MLB early slate. All right, first thing we do is we upload the projections. Now, again, like if you're a SaberSim subscriber on TrueDFS, this automatically, most of the time, comes through automatically, but we're going to save this for now. And we'll build 50 lineups. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put a minimum salary of 49 for no reason, honestly. Something to do. And I don't really feel like waiting for 5,000 lineups. So let's do 3,000. And we'll build it and then we'll just see what we get. So I am going to predict, boy, oh boy. I really don't know. I don't know what I think is going to happen. This is always kind of fun for me. Just because it was so hard for me to get those things I wanted, I think it's going to give me a bunch of Cleveland. That's what I am projecting, but let's just see. And again, you'll see again like the different types of lineup constructions we can tell SaberSim to make for us, depending on what types of contests we're in. Okay. All right. So actually, looks like a whole bunch of Toronto. But let's take a look. First stack exposure. So we would have to do a little work here. You know, there's way too much nonsense here. Like 3-3-2, 3-3. But let's, as an example, let's work on this. So we're going to X out these 3-2s, X out the 3-3s, X out the 3-2-2s, X out the 4-0s, X out the 4-2s, 2-2-2s, and then let's get some, which is kind of interesting to see that this is what they want to do here, is build all this stuff. All right, so now we have like mostly 5 and 4 man stacks, and you'll see that we're getting 84% Toronto. Okay, now before we move on, well, let me just look at the pitching for a second. And it's getting Bassett, Green, Bryce Miller too. But the most important thing to note is that they're rating these lineups by projected score. Okay. And that is usually a little bit too chalky for the big buy-ins. For the MME builds. So the first thing we'll do before we do a sim is we'll change that to sort it by Saber score, and let's just call it a large slate, 1K to 10K, and see if it makes any difference with respect to the exposures and stuff. So when you do that, you get the majority of the ownership actually coming from the aforementioned Cleveland at 56% Cleveland. And then Philadelphia, 32%. And then Milwaukee, actually, who didn't consider it all. And Houston, who I didn't even consider it all. So that's the difference between when you use a more GPP friendly build as opposed to projected score. Now I'll maybe change to min unique too. Kind of spice it up a little bit, get a little more diversity. Make sure that doesn't really affect anything. And for now, what I'm going to do is I am going to save this. And then I'm going to come back. I'll show you in a second. First, I'm going to save this to my lineups. And then we're going to run a contest sim to give you another idea. Because I just had a dummy lineup for now. Just want to at least save with something just in case, again, all my internet goes down or something, at least I have something. So let me save that, and then I'm going to run a contest sim, which I find it interesting to get the different types of lineups you get depending on what you do. All right, so let's save that. Again, just in case I lose, I get absent-minded and forget. Let's see, up here. Okay, so let's go back into SaberSim, and we're going to do a contest sim. And first thing we do is go into settings. We go into contest sim settings, Add contest sim. So we do have flagship MME already here. Contest size 5,000. We can make it 10,000. Probably more like 10,000 people are in here anyway. We'll save the settings. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run the contest sim. Okay. And then we're going to see that, once again, the kind of the different types of lineups that we get. And this is just a little more exact. You know, like if you want to play this exact tournament, like the lottery, this is a little more exact than the Saber Sim, the Saber score rankings that I did before. I'm not saying better or worse. I do think that this adds another layer of intelligence to the builds. So, like right now, you can't really tell too much of a difference. Team stack is getting Cleveland, San Diego, whatever. But here, we got to re-rank them by ROI. And now we're going to see what changes. So now what you're getting instead is, check this out, like a whole heaping ton of Cincinnati, of all things. You know? So if you're really going to, and this to give you an idea of like what it takes to like play the lottery tournament, like this is how, you know, leverage you really need to be if you really want to play these types of things. Now, do you have to play 74% Philly? No, you don't have to. But let's take a look at this. So you could kind of mess around with this. I mean, you could artificially give yourself, you know, hey, I don't want that. 40%, 40% Cincy. But you're still getting all this Milwaukee. So you really have to just kind of figure out what type of risk tolerance you kind of want. I think that for me on a slate like this, I think I really might be inclined to go with this more highly variant approach. But the one thing I might do, just because I really liked Philly, and again, you can do this, right? I'm going to add like a little bit. So maybe I'll play 30% Philly instead of 20. So here we've done a contest sim, and look what we're getting. We're getting Milwaukee with a 3.6 run total, right? Cincinnati with a 4 run total. We don't even have the lineups in yet. And then Philly. But I do think that in the and I'm going to actually do that. But the only thing that's annoying is that I don't have the lineups yet for the San Franciscos. So that might impact this, because you do have to make a decision pretty early on these dudes. You know what I mean? Because Philly starts early. Minnesota, the Cleveland one would start early. So to get all the Cincinnati exposure, I'm doing it based on like lineups that just not even sure are accurate, you know. And if the lineups come out and I've already committed to, the Reds came out now. All right, so let me just see. I mean, what I'd have to rerun this, right? Which I'll probably do. Okay, so that's probably what I'll end up doing. So we're going to keep right now the lineups from before without having run the contest sims, because again, I don't want to expose myself to too much of the Reds until I know what the hell's going on. So I'll probably have to rerun the Red stuff. Let's take a look at FanDuel, and just because I think I might be running out of time here, I think I'm going to have to skip. Well, actually, I won't skip it. I'll go through FanDuel just a little bit quicker. So let's just pull up the FanDuel sheets and see what the differences look like. We have FanDuel, again, we still have to update for the Reds, but pretty spread out. Sanchez, Woodruff, so same type of deal. So if you're going to get Reed Detmers at 4%, for example, I think it's a very, very strong play. Even though he's up against Philly, right? But Boy, oh boy, 4%? That seems kind of crazy. I mean, this slate is not great as far as pitching goes. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that. I am going to play Detmers there. Let's take a look at the stacks. That's kind of nuts. I mean, he can bring it. I mean, I do like Philly, but let's take a look. Okay, so in FanDuel, you have Philly as the top stack, and then you have San Diego and then St. Louis poking their head in. Okay. All right, so this is interesting. And then kind of a drop to Baltimore and then the Angels, who we haven't seen yet. So St. Louis is the team that stands out to me as the one that – and look, check this out. They're also the number one value on FanDuel. And they're not as highly owned as Philly. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's pull up a FanDuel build or a FanDuel lineup. Oh, and there's my underdog stuff. Let's pull up FanDuel. As a matter of fact, I have to build something. I've reserved lineups. Let's build let's build it all right now. So let's do Detmers because I said I was going to. We're not going to play Philly. They're going to be the chalkiest. So let's go ahead and play, who did I say, St. Louis? So who do I want to play for St. Louis? I presume Goldschmidt, but let's just take a look. Edmund, Contreras, Goldschmidt, and either Arenado or Walker. So let's put them in. Goldschmidt, Edmund. I don't know where to put him. We'll put him here for now. Oh, he's only 2,800. No wonder this is such a great looking stack. And then Contreras. We'll put him. We ought to put him in the utility. And then either Walker or Arenado. We can certainly afford it, so let's just go put in Arenado. I mean, we can play whoever we want here. So who looks good? That's not Philly. From a raw stack perspective, I mean, San Diego, right? But they're highly owned. You play Baltimore. So either San Diego or Baltimore. I mean, you probably won't even be able to spend all your money, honestly. I mean, you look at San Diego's, you can play Tatis, Soto, who else? Machado shortstop somehow? No, he's not, but don't you play Machado? Or you can play Baltimore's. I mean, whatever you want here, honestly. I mean, you don't even need to play Detmers if you're playing the St. Louis's. That's the problem. I mean, you take him out even. Let's just say you play everybody you want. You play Tatis, Soto. You can't play, I mean, you could. You play Machado here. And then Kim, which is what position? What does he play? Second base, shortstop. So you play one. There's a 4 San Diego's, and then we'll play. Who do we say? Walker was the other guy you could play for him. I mean, you can spend up to 9,700. I mean, you don't even have to play Detmers if you don't want to. So you're still fading the chalkiest thing, and one of these guys, you can play BB, you can play, I mean, you can almost play Woodruff, but BB makes sense. See, well, how do you play BB and you leave 700 on the table? How about them apples? So that's something to do. All right, so that's locked. Let's build a FanDuel build from SaberSim. Very early only. And same thing. Let's upload. This doesn't get the Reds game. This doesn't get a bunch of games. Let's build the Upload the FanDuel lineups. And let's build, I don't know, not that much. We'll build 50, I guess. We build 150. It doesn't really matter. So let's build 80. How about that? Or 100. We'll build 100. We'll build only, only 3,000 lineups needed for me. Minimum salary 34,500. What time is it? 12:35. Plenty of time. No problem. Just making sure. And let's build these and see what we get FanDuel wise. I mean, I presume that we're going to get what I said. I mean, like these are way too easy to build here. I guarantee you that these Cardinals are probably going to be really, really chalky at the end of the day. Because you see how easy it was. If you have Edmund at 2,800, and there's no real pitchers you need to pay up for. Let's just see what we get here. We have really well. This is actually pretty good news already from the king of the baseline thing. I think one of my underdogs is coming through for me. Yeah, this looks real. Okay, this is a really good start. I mean, he's chalky, or she's chalky. He's chalky. But I have this B Gojo dude, Borna Gojo, who's already won his first set as well on his way to the second, which is really, really good. Okay, so FanDuel, let's see what we get here. First of all, stack exposure. Let's be greedy. Actually, we can't put all 4 fours, but let's make again 0, 0, 0. We'll play some 4 threes, but that's it. Because I'm like that. Just like that. All right. Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of these. Let's get rid of these, and then we'll see if we come up. It's got to be all the Cardinals. It just has to be. Or the Padres. Let's see. Team stacks. White Sox. What in the hell do I know? See, this is why we do this. White Sox. 49% White Sox. Dude, I might just blindly put this in if that's the case. And it's only small slate, too. I mean, this is crazy. San Diego and the White Sox. I mean, who are these people? All right, so we're going to save these for now. All right, let's just put these down in here. Save the CSV just so I have it. I want to just put something in, but then I want to do a contest sim as well. Let's go back into FanDuel. Do this. It's so weird. What happened to the Cardinals? Save this, and then we'll do a contest sim and see if it changes anything, but it's very interesting. Okay, so let's go back into Saber Sim, and we'll do the same thing we did before. Wait, 40, 30 over there. Oh, we get this break here. We're freaking geniuses. All right, all right, so again, settings. Contest sim settings, add contest sim, flagship. Again, we're going to make it 10,000 lineups. Save this. And once again, we will go and run a contest sim. Let's see what we got. Mm-hmm. Over there. So again, we're not going to sort them by regular. We're going to sort them by flagship, MME, ROI. And now we'd be getting Cubs, White Sox, San Diego, Cleveland. We have to get rid of all this. We fix that. So again, we have, but once again, these White Sox. So I think this is actually a good blend. You get to play the White Sox they want you to play, and then Cubs, San Diego. So I am going to change it to this actually. So let's I like this actually. So it's going to be, as far as my MLB build, it's going to be White Sox, Cubs, Padres, Cleveland. But for whatever reason, like, it's really not giving me too much of the St. Louis, but I still like that in my big buy-in. So I'm going to keep that as my big buy-in, but then we will change the MME stuff to what the contest sims were giving me. Change that. It's here. It's here. This. So my only question, again, a couple of questions, is what I'm going to do with my big buy-in on DraftKings. Let's just take a look and see what this looks like. See, I could always change these. This one's kind of cool. So my big buy-in right now is just, it seems a little, it's not bad. You have the Philly with the Clevelands. This is really not too bad. Then you get Logan Webb, and you get the BB. I don't know. I think I want to go back to what I wanted to do before, and that was to take a shot with the Philly. And that was going to be Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber. I mean, Rojas is like going to be real. I mean, who's Johan Rojas? Stott we liked, right? Yeah, okay. We like Stott, but it's lefty. Boy, oh boy, like Detmers is so tough. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be Philly after all. I mean, maybe we just wimp out and do that Cleveland thing. Seattle, we don't have the lineup out yet. But boy, oh boy, they just kill it, these guys. I mean, you play, well, France is out now. If you played the Raleigh, then you're playing all these righties. I just don't like playing the righties. So I'm a little bit at a loss for what to do. So I'm just going to keep it the way it is right now with the stupid Cleveland, the Cleveland-Philly combination. It feels so dirty. What about that Milwaukee thing? What about that Milwaukee idea that I got from the contest sims? Like, what does that look like? What I like to do is I do like to double check to make sure I'm at least in the ball game with respect to my projections. And it doesn't look like it. I mean, like, where is Milwaukee? I mean, they're just nowhere. Yeah, as you can see, Clay, it just really depends. It just depends. Like, I still haven't tried to get Houston in yet. Philly seems to be kind of annoying to me, you know. But maybe Houston is just the idea. So what does that look like? What we'd like to do is get guys that rate well both. So let's try Tucker, Bregman, and Tucker, Bregman, Alvarez, and McCormick. Put these guys in. The problem here is that there's not that many great cheap pitchers. So you have these four. All right, that's a good start. Okay. Then when you have the Houston four, then you could play either Maldonado, could play Altuve, but when you play Altuve, then you're just asking for that same. Now you're getting $6,200 guy, whatever it is. You could go back to these Clevelands, though. Bregman's only third base. I mean, so you could do this and then play stuff like this. Play these Clevelands. Let's go back. It's 12:45. Oh, plenty of time. Plenty of time. Bregman. We could play Maldonado. Let's just see let's go back to the pitching for a second. So let's go back to, again, that kind of GPP-ish type, kind of no-shot pitching thing we were going to do. We were going to play Hunter Green, and wasn't Detmers. It was going to be a Bassett, right? Hunter Green and Bassett. And if you did this, now you're at 2,900 a man, and then you could play the Clevelands, I presume. That's what I'd probably do, is play the Clevelands. Let's see something. But the thing is, you can't play Ramirez like this. Can you play the San Diegos? I mean, not at 2,900 a man, right? Let's just see. So it's back to Cleveland. I mean, you could do Boston too, but that's against what's his name. I don't think I want to do that. And you could do the Torontos, but do we even know who's starting it there? Let's take a look. Presume this. Yes, we do, actually. So if we could get this, like Kirk. Oh, we get Biggio at 2,600. And you get, so we can play some of this. You do get the Clement after all at shortstop. Is he a righty somehow? I mean, $6,800 left. I mean, you could certainly do this. And then you could even put in another Houston guy. I mean, depending on who's starting here. So you play like one of these cheapos. Like, you could play Merrifield, like, pretty reasonably, and we would just need like a cheap first baseman. And now is where you could play this dude. This was one from Cleveland. So this is interesting. So you could do a 4-4 with Toronto, Houston, with Green, Bassett, which I think I kind of like this, guys. I really do. I can always change my mind because Houston, Boston's later, which also makes a lot of sense. So I'll have Bassett going first, and I'll have Green to go later. Kirk starting off. Kirk Merrifield, I think, is pretty reasonable. So it's Kirk, Merrifield, Clement. A little nice three-man Toronto. I have this one off from Cleveland. This guy's not bad, though, the Arias. I kind of like him. So my only real question is it better to pair this Arias with, say, another guy from Cleveland? What time is it? 12:48? No problem. Like, is it better to play him with Ramirez? And now we go at a little less Toronto, a little less Houston this way. Now this is definitely more of a Bobby type lineup. This is like a 3. Boy, he'd be so proud of me if I got away with this, though. Like a 3-3-2. I'm still going back to these Clevelands as being good plays. I don't know what to say. I just keep going back to the Clevelands. So I like the Green and Bassett. Now we have these guys as basically one-offs. I guess I don't even need this, right? You could probably just get away with I mean, just playing Cleveland's and Houston's. And I'll just figure it out later. Is that what I want to do? Like, who's the shortstop for Houston that could play? I mean, you could put in Pena for now. Actually, not quite. You can't put in Pena for now. This is the problem with playing the Houstons. Let's do this. Let's go back to what I was doing before. Instead of Green, we'll play the cheapo. Who's going to be Sanchez? Get Sanchez. Oh, I think this is what's going to happen. And then Maldonado's going to fit. All right, so we're going to go with this. And we're probably going to be swapping a little bit later. Okay, that's going to do it for the afternoon thing. We'll be back. I'll be putting up projections for the later slate later, and we're going to be here at 6 for the live live before live. Hopefully that was enjoyable watching me struggle, and maybe it turns into something decent. Good luck, everybody.